There's no doubt trust is extremely important, especially when it comes to elections and what people value. So when we look at trust, trust is a combination of what people think of what you will do in the future. Reputation is based on what you've done in the past. The thing about trust, we have seen that if you trust someone or trust an organisation, people are more likely to believe good news about you. It gives you a better license to operate, more value in what you do, and people have more trust in in your performance of at that time. If they don't trust you, then there's a greater chance they will believe and listen to bad news about you. So it's a real challenge. If you don't have any trust, there is a greater chance more people will believe more bad news about you, and it's very hard to turn that around. Okay, so the way Edelman looks at reputation and trust, reputation is the measure or the value of what people perceive you have done before. So what you have built previously goes to the reputation. Trust is more future-looking, what people expect you to do or how they expect you to act. So they are absolutely combined and intertwined. You can have a great reputation, but there may be questions over how much do people trust you in the future. And certainly when it comes to politicians or businesses, the more you can build your reputation, the greater trust you will have as well. And they do go hand in hand. Well, I think the first thing they have to do is be honest and communicate transparently. I think what's important is that people think about every action that they do and tell the stories about what they have done very well, what they stand for, what they believe in, the values that they have. That helps build their reputation as a person or as a company. At the same time, they have to be honest and transparent about what is taking place. If they don't do that, there will be a lack of trust. And if there is a lack of trust, it's very hard to convince people to believe that you are doing the right thing. And if there are stories out there saying you've done the wrong thing, people are more likely to believe you. Very good question, because if you think about it, when we've done the research, governments are actually the government is a very trusted institution. So we measure 4 institutions when it comes to trust: NGOs, media, government, and business. In Hong Kong, we are a trusting market as a whole, and NGOs, media, and government are extremely well trusted. Government, for example, is about 62%. So 62% of people here in Hong Kong trust governments. Compared to in business, it goes down to 47%. So there's a massive gap between trusting governments and trusting business. But what it gets really interesting is when you break down people's expectation of what a government should do and the performance. So the number one thing is that government should listen to feedback. Second thing is they must be transparent and have ethical business practices. And third is they must communicate honestly at all times. That's the expectation, but if you look at the gap, there is a massive gap with what people expect the government to do and what they think they actually do at the moment. So there is a real opportunity for government and organisations to bridge that trust gap and build greater trust by communicating more openly, talking to customers, stakeholders, people of Hong Kong, and communicating far more honestly and transparently. Yeah, I think what that shows us is that when there is a lack of trust, people are more likely to believe bad stories. People go looking for bad stories. People want to read about the bad stories. So the real challenge is how do you ensure that the good stories, the positive stories, are also told. And that is a real challenge, because when we measure trust and look at trust, there is no doubt that if you are not trusted, people are more likely to believe bad stories. If you are trusted, people are more likely to believe the good stories and less likely to believe the bad stories. The other thing is the amount of times you hear a story. So if you trust someone, you're more likely to believe it by only hearing it once or twice. If you don't trust someone and you hear a bad story, again, it's about once or twice hearing that story and you believe it. But if you don't trust them, to hear a good story, it takes about 5 or 6 times of hearing that story before you believe it. So it's far harder to convince people, if they don't trust you, of the truth of what is actually taking place.